The other side of our studio, Emma James with MediaWatch and reactions to what has been a momentous and historical day in Zimbabwe.
Yes, very much so. After 37 years in power, Robert Mugabe is out, and it's a day that many people thought they would never see. What we saw was scenes of jubilation on the streets in Harare in particular. This image typical of the kind of thing, a look of great happiness there, and somebody carrying a sign saying, "Mugabe, you are too old to rule." Looking on Twitter at some of the reactions to this gentleman, Pastor Evan Mawarire, actually led protests over the economic crisis in the country. Just a couple of months ago, he was arrested and charged with subversion. He says the journey has been long and hard, but we did it. I can't stop crying. The future beckons. And just to prove that he isn't saying that lightly about not being able to stop crying, this was him when he appeared on television a little later that day. He really is exceptionally emotional about the whole thing, and I think there is this feeling that this was never going to happen, that a lot of people seem to hold. This woman describes herself on Twitter as an aspiring member of Parliament. She talks about the street parties and says, "May the sense of celebration we feel rouse within a strong passion for country. Dictators don't just happen, they are created by citizens who don't vote, who don't participate, and who are afraid to speak truth to power."
Everybody should take note of those words.
Very much so. I look forward to seeing her parliamentary career in future.
Vote whenever you can.
Jean-Philippe Remy is Le Monde's correspondent in Zimbabwe, and what he wrote is that anyone waking up after a long sleep because of the noise of klaxons or car horns would think that Zimbabwe had just won the World Cup, the Football World Cup, no doubt. However, there are people sounding a note of caution on this one, including the Mail and Guardian, this opinion piece, the editorial, "Bye bye Bob, but hello uncertainty." Now, they talk about this being an end of an era that is as momentous as the end of colonial rule, but they go on to say that presuming that he does ultimately vacate the presidency, the generals have removed one major threat but possibly just created another one, because of course if a military coup is successful, it makes another coup all the more likely. Zimbabweans cannot let their guard down just yet, is how this finishes. And the editor, the publisher of that particular newspaper says, "I have no anger, ill will or hate towards Robert Mugabe. The greatest punishment for him is to have him watch the Zimbabweans celebrate his departure."
Okay. New allegations of sexual harassment and assault are emerging on a daily basis among the so-called great and good. The latest controversy is over a group of women who've chosen to defend one of the accused.
Yes, it is causing a great deal of debate right now. If your friend or colleague has been accused of something and you stand up for them, are you going against the sisterhood? And this is something that a lot of people are talking about with regards to Senator Al Franken. Now, before he became a senator, he was a comedian who worked on Saturday Night Live. 36 members of staff, female members of staff who worked alongside him during that time, have written a letter in his defence. Now, you may remember he's accused of groping this woman over her flak jacket while she was asleep. She also says that he forced a kiss on her during a rehearsal. They were entertaining troops back in 2006 before he was a senator. Now, the letter that has been sent out and signed by all these women says that he was stupid and foolish, and he was right to apologise for it, but that he has treated all of them with the utmost respect and regard. There has, though, been quite a backlash to this. This tweet typical, really. Some of the women on this list are my childhood heroes. This statement feels like a betrayal. This Twitter user saying, "I would not be surprised if this has a chilling effect on women speaking out," because of course when you start questioning the words of women who come forward detailing these kinds of alleged crimes, then you are running the risk of giving rise to this kind of thing, really, slut shaming, victim blaming. Leanne Tweeden is the woman that he was supposed to have assaulted. Lots of people saying that if she poses this provocatively, she can't have really minded too much.
She can pose like that, but that doesn't mean that she's giving consent to be groped when she's asleep. That's the point, isn't it?
And when you write off women's claims too much, you can end up at the very extreme end of the scale with things like this. Breitbart's editor-in-chief Alex Marlow saying that rape used to mean something, now it's any sex that the woman ends up regretting. Now, if you want to read
That's the
a more
Breitbart editor.
Yes, a more nuanced piece on this is in the Washington Post from Molly Ross. Roberts. She says it is unhelpful to pull the focus away from what has happened by stirring up feelings about the person's general character. She says the number of women a man didn't assault doesn't matter if there are others that he did. There are plenty of people that the Zodiac killer did not murder.
Indeed, quite true, quite true. Emma, thank you very much indeed. Emma James with MediaWatch, your career with the business. Thank you very much indeed.